Hello, Matt.
Forrest,
Hello.
guess what? It turned out there was
Yeah.
some news. We just didn't say it.
Yeah, there was loads of news. There was news that was related to the opposite news that you told everyone last week.
Yeah.
And then there was brand new news like 2 hours after we recorded.
It's kind of annoying a little bit, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's very annoying.
We kind of and as well last week we had. What's amazing, by the way, we've had it's quite a popular episode. We had loads of downloads last week, so thank you to everybody that's listened. If you are new, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Don't Be a Hero podcast. But yeah, the news episode was lacking of news and also didn't really have all the detail we needed. And then all of a sudden we had quite a few big things that dropped. I mean, we've got our Supergirl now in James Gunn's DC, Millie Alcock, which is very exciting because she's a fantastic up-and-coming actress as well. Do you watch House of Dragons?
I watched a couple of episodes, not all of it.
I watched it, but
Great.
I was
Great
asking
chat.
if you had.
Yeah,
Cool.
no, she's great. She is great, and I really looking forward to it. Can't wait. So there's going to be a separate Supergirl movie, but she's going to feature in Superman Legacy.
Yeah.
Am I right? I think I'm right. So yeah, really exciting stuff, which we couldn't say in our monthly news roundup, which is mostly made up of 40 minutes rumours, 10 minutes a load of me and Matt pissing around. So. We've got slightly more focus. We've got a better focus this week, I think.
This is our traditional format. So if you're listening and you're brand new, this is a kind of like our bread and butter, right? When we started with this, we started with Iron Man. We were going through all the phase 1, 2, and 3. Back then, there was no series to talk about. We went through each movie, and here we are with an MCU movie, which I don't think we've done for about 3 months. Is that too long? But I think
it feels like a long time. It's a long time. So there'll be a lot of people listening now who will be like, "Oh, really? This is what you do? This is what? You lured me in with Christmas and random bullshit, and now you're analysing films. That is too much for me. That is disgusting, actually. No, that's not why I tune into these boys. But yes, this is what we actually started 2 years ago. So I think without further ado, Matt, will you join me in analysing this week's movie, Thor? Love and Thunder.
Let's go. Take me by the hand.
And here we are. Oh, fantastic. Just going to warn straight off the bat, my internet is it's good but not stable, so you won't notice it on the podcast. But if Matt uploads a reel, my face, probably what happens is he uploads a reel just as my internet goes, so my face just freezes, but my voice continues.
I
weird.
just like to highlight the fact that you say you've got ridiculously fast speeds, and I'm in the dark corner of East Essex, and there's nothing but tiny amounts of internet downloads here. But you've got 300 plus. Oh, yeah, I've got my little 13 downloads, and it's not that reliable, is it, mate?
No, it's the least stable internet I've ever had, I've got to be honest. But it's very fast internet, and it's fast all throughout the house. But it just keeps dropping. So I'm gonna have to do a little phone call to the company.
Ooh,
I won't put.
I want you to read that. I want you to make an email. Do a little email, and then we can read that email out into the podcast because we're still not getting any. emails.
Still not.
Despite the attempt of the reel last week.
Yeah, I thought last week's reel might, literally reel people in, but apparently not. No, not at all. At least said about that. But Thor, Love and Thunder. I'm going to get stuck in straight away, Matt. Let's get the synopsis for this movie out of the way. This is the first time I've done a film synopsis in 2024. It's the first time I've done a film synopsis for many a month. Are you ready, Matt?
I'm so ready. Bring it. Let's go.
Thor, Love and Thunder finds Thor on a journey unlike anything he's ever faced. A quest for inner peace. But his retirement is interrupted by a galactic killer known as Gore the God Butcher, who seeks the extinction of the gods. To combat the threat, Thor enlists the help of King Valkyrie, Korg, and ex-girlfriend Jane Foster, who, to Thor's surprise, inexplicably wields his magical hammer, Mjolnir, as the mighty Thor. Together, they embark upon a harrowing cosmic adventure to uncover the mystery of the God Butcher's vengeance and stop him before it's too late.
Say it again.
Mjolnir. Mjolnir.
We've had this debate for so long now. I mean, so we can if we want to be organised, we could go back and listen to how Thor actually says it in this movie. But I think it's like a Mjolnir. It's like a nye instead of a nu. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
But I've got it. I've got it in my hands, though. I mean, again, this is an audio platform, but I've got my replica Mjolnir in my hands because we're talking Thor, Love and Thunder. That was a fine summary. I think saying that he's been tested like he hasn't ever been tested before, I don't necessarily agree. If you kind of like compare that to the way that Thanos tested him against how Gore has tested him.
Yeah. I think, it's pretty minor, isn't it?
There's been higher stakes.
Yeah, it's an inconvenience rather than a threat, I think.
I mean, it's justified with Jane's story, I suppose, and her journey in the movie, and there are kind of those moments. But yeah, it doesn't feel like it. Never felt like, and if we're going into overview thoughts here, it never felt like there was huge amounts of stakes that were coming from Thor's perspectives, or it was just kind of misplaced through a lens of outward comedy, outward forced comedy as well, to the detriment of the movie. And that's saying something from my perspective. Again, you know me, dear listener, we've done Thor Ragnarok. I do have nothing but love and praise for Thor Ragnarok. I actually genuinely love that movie. And you've heard me last week saying I like Taika Waititi's stuff. I do. However, it does feel like all of it was just a little bit misplaced. I say a little bit, really misplaced. That kind of hindered the story. But overall, there were kind of decent performances. Seeing Natalie Portman back, I'm a huge Natalie Portman fan. And seeing her come back as well as Thor was a great thing, and I felt like we could have got more of. I wish we got more of. Maybe we will. I don't know. Who knows? Because we had the ending as well. We'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, it was okay. I think there was missed opportunities. Your thoughts, my friend?
I think I'm gonna surprise you, Matt, because I actually thoroughly enjoyed it watching it again. Right, and I did not go into it thinking I would thoroughly enjoy it. And also this is one of the ones that I couldn't quite remember from when we went to the cinema. So we saw it, and I was like, I just couldn't quite remember. I remember there was bits that we were like, they've gone too far with a comedy or done this or done that. Couldn't quite remember it, but generally, I actually quite enjoyed it. And what I think this film is fun. I think it takes us out of the MCU briefly, and it is. I think it's just a fun comic book Thor movie. Do you think
they were trying to tailor this movie to a younger audience, as they have been with the previous projects with like Miss Marvel or that kind of stuff? Is there I can like a focus on we need to inspire or bring in younger and newer faces and eyes to this project.
Potentially. Not massively with this movie, because actually I thought the themes that Gore presents with his daughter and the themes of Jane Foster weren't particularly, like, if you're a child, cancer's like, nothing. Like, you're not really and likewise, you're not, the loss of a daughter is going to mean absolutely nothing to you. So I don't know how, like, if I'd agree. I think they're doing that. I just think this is classic whatever it's that name, Taika Waititi. Oh, mate, Waititi. It's just one of his classic movies, basically.
Taika Waititi. It's just the way that you said it then. Waititi. You sounded like you were coughing. Waititi.
My brain was like, don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. You're going to mess it up. You've got it wrong. You've got it wrong. You've got it. Just stop. That was the fun. So 20 seconds of my brain there. But yes, Taika Waititi.
Taika.
T-A-I, yeah, like a tie. Yeah, in fact, Taika Waititi. Well, yeah. His film, which, signature his movie, but actually, I enjoyed it, and I thought, one of the things that we'll let's talk straight off the bat, I think, right, in terms of a general vibe, which for me is, and it happened massively in the film we saw. What's the film we saw last year? It wasn't Guardians, it was the other one that was a bit like, what?
Wasn't Guardians, but it was...
The Marvels.
Oh, the Marvels, right.
The Marvels. So recently, there has been an issue with the editing of their movies. And I don't know what's happening, but for some reason there is a lot of content being removed, which evidently should have remained. So in this film, there is a bit right at the beginning. So I'm sure around the time we were already told there was a lot more with the Guardians that got removed, because it's a 2-hour film. They keep it concise. It's a very concise, very small film. But because of that, we suffer a lack of gore, so a lack of threat, a lack of the villain. Like we suffer a lack of.
Sorry, no, I just really agree with you. Then I was like,
yeah. A lack of. I'll riff off, mate. A lack of, at the beginning, we get a great story from Korg. We get the story of Thor and like a catch up, which works really well. But then we get a really small battle scene with the Guardians that doesn't really go anywhere. And then they see, like, they look at all of these different things happening everywhere, and then suddenly Quill is like, oh, we've got to separate. And it all happens very like chop. Here's where we need to be, so not enough gore, not enough Guardians of the Galaxy, not enough Jane. Even with the cancer story, like, that's not even introduced in a satisfactory way, I don't think. And it's just, I don't know. It's just Marvel really needs to take a look and go, what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to achieve shorter films? Is that why they're editing loads? In which case, cut out half of the plots. The issue isn't how many scenes you've got, it's how many plots you've got going at the same time. So cut the amount of plots, right? Don't have Jane. Is the emphasis on Jane? Is the emphasis on, like, Thor's breakup with the Guardians, or is the film about gore? What focus are you taking for a small film? Or is it a long film, in which case, like, how can we not remove too many scenes?
Brilliant take. Brilliant. Dear listener, if you've got a take like that, you should send us an email at don'tbeherepodcast@gmail.com. I agree, mate. I agree. I think there is... and actually, when you think about the editing and you watch the movie, even with an outside eye, you go, Oh yeah, they have chopped this left, right, and centre. You can almost tell as well where like scenes have just abruptly ended, or moments have just abruptly ended and had no real resolution, and we're going into the next moment very quickly. It was a bit. I think maybe that's kind of wrapped around the difficulty of the story. Now, one of the first things in terms of, again, the movie going now, thinking, on specific moments, at the beginning, we are met with Gore, okay? And we are met with him in the desert. He's fled, his civilization, and it's been destroyed, and they've been not listened to by their god, and he's got a dying daughter. And we see immediately, and again, Christian Bale is undoubtedly, I mean, we've got to agree. I mean, and I'd be interested again, if you don't agree with this, send us an email on debutheropodcast@gmail.com. That Christian Bale is one of our finest actors of our time. He is he's a chameleon. He transforms in every single role that he plays. And seeing him play this dramatic moment with such high stakes, you've got a dying daughter. He buries his daughter in the first minute of this movie, and it is dramatic. It is actually heart-wrenching, and for me as well, I find it difficult watching that. And again, because he's giving such a brilliant performance, and then he goes to the god, and then we see this kind of. We see the Necro sword come through, and he murders the god, and I can't remember what the god's name is, so I'm just generalising the god. But like it all justifies a villain story. It all justifies his villain story. And then at that moment, I'm gripped. Okay, all right, let's see more about Gore. I need to learn more about Gore. I need to get more into his layers. And you can see Christian Bale's giving absolutely everything he can with what he's got. And then all of a sudden, we then cut to Thor pissing about with the Guardians. And comedy. He's got making the splits while he's having a fight, and we've got flipping the Immigrant Song from Led Zeppelin playing over the top during this fight scene. Yeah, classic Marvel, that's all fine. But just prior to that, we had something massively dramatic, something potentially compelling as well as a story, and again, a villain arc. And it just gets just moved into this Taika comedic thing. And again, I don't hate on it, it just wasn't placed right. It felt like we had all these... And again, Jane's story about her stage 4 cancer, that's a serious thing. It's a serious thing. And I'm not saying you can't play it through a comedy lens, but you've got to be gentle about it. You can't be outwardly, immature in your comedic timing. And I think people, that's what they kind of paint the brush on Taika sometimes. His comedy can be seen as just outwardly immature. And, and I don't necessarily agree with that, but like that has been said. And I think it's just all these, all these serious things that happen around it just get muddied through a lens of comedy. And I think that's what gets convoluted in the editing. But yeah, I was originally gripped by Gore's story, and then I just kind of like had to let go of it because we barely got any of Christian Bale. Again, I am placing, and I'll say this now, and I'd be interested if you agree, dear listener, I am placing Gore, the God Butcher, and Christian Bale's performance as Gore as one of the most underrated villain stories and villains of the MCU, and something I kind of wish we could get more of, and I don't think we ever will because Christian Bale's expensive. But it's just a bit of a shame. I wish we could have got more from that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think they massively shortchanged him. I'm sure there's loads of scenes out there that we haven't seen that would have been remarkable and would have kept in. I think let's look at the humour side to it. I think for me, the biggest chunk that they should have just got rid of is the whole bit with Zeus, which they couldn't because as we'll talk about later, there's a specific reason why they couldn't do that. But that whole bit, that whole excerpt of the film, if you're telling me that you've cut out a load of stuff with Jane Foster, you've cut out a load of stuff with Gore, you cannot tell me that was vital.
They should have just cast somebody other than Russell Crowe, because that's the reason why there was so much screen time for him in that moment, because it's Russell Crowe. Not to say it wasn't funny. Like, I actually found that actually hilarious. I mean, Russell Crowe's accent as well as Zeus was, I don't know what it was, but whatever it was funny. But like, that felt like in that moment it was justified, because, you know, you've got this grandioso thing when you see Zeus, you think of like almighty and powerful, and you've got this absolute buffoon in front of you, and that's where it's justified, because it's from a character perspective. But yeah, you're right. They could have, you know, that could have just been like let's go get Zeus's, you know, lightning thing, and it's like hidden somewhere, or he's sleeping in a bed or something. It doesn't, you know, it don't have to go to a council. It could just have been a quick moment to allow more screen time for the actual plot.
Yes, I also, what that scene did bring, you talk about underrated like characters, and Gore being one of them. Do you know what those scenes brought to us for the most underused, underrated character of all time, and potentially of all Marvel? This, Matt, for me, mate.
Are you talking about the Bayer bun?
I'm exactly talking about the God of Dumplings. You know me so well, Matt. The God of Dumplings. I think the first time, because I'd forgotten about it, I think the first time I must have chuckled this time, I remember, and I was like, the God of Dumplings. It's such a left field thing for him to put in there, and it's
very Taika. It's a very Taika thing to do, to have something so out there.
Yeah.
Like, you could have, I mean, if it could have worked because of licensing, but imagine if you had like Princess Peach there or something. Like,
yeah, like it would have been Mario. It would have been amazing. I think, and for me, that was they missed out with that bit, because it was almost like a. Do you remember? Have you ever seen Wreck-It Ralph? I think it's the second Wreck-It Ralph film, right? Mm-hmm. Which I know is an obscure reference already, but within Wreck-It Ralph 2, there is a scene where they bring all of the princesses together, or all of the Disney princesses are in one scene. It's quite a notorious scene, even if you haven't seen the film. I think they kind of missed it, exactly kind of that trick, where it was like lots of like God of Dumplings, God, you know, and avocado sat there, and like top tier like Cluck Foods that are just sat there and have their own council of like, they have like their
Colonel
own steering
Sanders.
group of
just sat there.
Just enjoying M for McDonald's.
Ronald McDonald's there, like
like why? Well, there's no justice for Happy Meals. Where's the justice for Happy Meals? But yeah, there's a whole. I thought, like you said, I think if that whole chunk was in a different movie, it would have been brilliant. I think it just felt very obscure. When it was lit, I think, pretty much top and tailed with a bit of gore and a bit of Jane Foster and her cancer storyline. So it's very like, what? Yeah, very strange.
It's I think there's a lot of players that, you know, within this movie, and quite a few plots that are going through. And I think because you've got two stories that are really tragical, I can understand why Taika was like, well, we need to find some light mood into this somewhere, because one, it's a Taika movie, and also Thor's got this now comedic thread. So he's had to double down on it. And I can understand the choices that were made. But like, again, just the moments for me, even when we had, is it Darcy? Kat Dennings. Kat Dennings. And, you know, having her back for a brief moment, you know, she's had enough screen time in WandaVision, so we all know her. We all know that, you know, her character, and seeing her back with Jane was really lovely. And we only got one scene with her. And I think we could have, and even Dr. Selvig as well, like he had a couple of lines when he was giving Jane's diagnosis initially. We could have had a couple of scenes, a little bit more time with Jane, with those characters that we got to know and love, and enjoy performances in the first one, and to sort of bring that arc back to it. It would have made more sense. I would have liked to have seen more Kat Dennings as well, because her character is so fun, and she's, you know, if Jane's going through something really tragical, you've got then comedic relief in her. So I would have liked to have seen that, in terms of we've got already established characters that can feed into Jane's story. I think that's what we needed again, a little bit more. I know I feel like I'm being really heavy on the critique here, but like, there are good moments.
Oh, there really are, and I think talking about good moments. So I want to talk a bit about Korg. So we have had conversations in the past, Matt, about narration and how you bring catch up. So at the beginning, like I said, he does a story of Thor, where we're at now. I'm really interested to know what your thoughts are, because I know in the first Thor movie, when they did like a Lord of the Rings style, like the history of the mythology that brings us back to where we were at that point. Be interested what your thoughts were with Korg, because he does it first time with Thor, second time Jane and Thor's relationship, then I think he does Jane. I think there might be another one in there, but yeah, he does it a couple of times, his stories. What do you think of Korg?
I think the inclusion of Korg in the movie is fine. It doesn't feel like it's so integral, but it kind of feels like it's just we get to know a little bit about his background, about his dad's as well, and how other Korgs can be made, which I thought was really sweet. And while that's happening in parallel to then Thor and Jane having a heart to heart on the ship, it was fine. And again, actually, we know the moment where we go back to Zeus and we have that big fight. And actually, I quite enjoyed that sequence of when the combat with Zeus and all the gods and the soldiers and stuff. When Korg gets what you would think at the moment murdered, I genuinely thought that was it. I genuinely thought that was it for Korg.
Yeah,
I was like, oh god, okay, they're getting rid of him. And then obviously then they kind of bring that back, and then I think it was, again, I don't know. I don't really have much of an opinion on Korg. I think if he wasn't in the movie, you would go, oh, where was Korg? Oh, that's sad. But I wouldn't be heartbroken about it.
Yeah, agreed. I thought it was a good way to deal with like the catching up of time and all that stuff. I just felt like he was underused, Matt. Like, it just felt like there was a whole bunch of stuff that he probably did do in the in the full filming and full script, but again, just cut it out. It's just almost too many moving parts, and they had to cut so much of it that none of the moving parts actually had their own time to shine in reality.
Talking about things that were kind of not that missed and weren't given the opportunity of any kind of like depth, the Necrosword, okay, for instance, was initiated from the offset, and the Necrosword has a history with the symbiote, which is what Venom has, within him in terms of. So we all know, if we know our Spider-Man stories, we know that Venom has a symbiote, symbiote, isn't it? Symbiote. Just looking at me like, oh, have you put yourself on mute as well?
Symbiote.
Oh, God.
Hell, it's like you and me traversing the English language for the first fucking time, mate. This podcast. I swear to God, people must think
figure out.
Did they even? I did achieve a star to C English GCSE. I can promise. It's literally like I'm fucking unable.
Anyway,
yes, he's got that. Yeah.
Yeah, so talking about that, so basically this is effectively the first, well, I say the first, I mean, we're discrediting No Way Home with Venom's inclusion in there, but we see this is the first time the symbiote is in the MCU properly, and in terms of when Gore transforms, when he gets handled, and the Necrosword chooses him, so that is another thing the symbiotes do, they choose a host, and they chose Gore at that moment. and you can see this kind of symbiote, venom type quality that was kind of going around him, and when the Necrosword was coming out, that was all great, and it was like, okay, well, there's something to play into there. We could quite easily have a moment where we're going into a flashback about symbiotes, understanding symbiotes. You could even have a nod and a callback to Spider-Man within it. You don't have to see him. You could talk about it. There could be characters from that part of the franchise coming out into a short scene. There's also a link with something in common with the Necrosword and the Ebony Blade as well, which is then at the end of Eternals. Not to say we want to tie anything to the Eternals, but let's be honest, no one has spoken about the Eternals at all since then. So you could have had an opportunity of these two powerful swords that are playing into something. And they're kind of like, you got pre-ancient times, there's history to it, there's something that you could play around with the people that have hosted these weapons. But it also kind of, and again, the other thing, mate, it kind of brings me into the Ten Rings. Like, talking about ancient times, artifacts, weapons that have a rich history and are used in the story. That's how the Ten Rings were used, and it was used correctly and used well. And again, dear listener, if you haven't listened to that podcast, that was a fair few months ago now. But it was such a great episode, and we loved that movie so much. And that was told really well. And so maybe the Necrosword should have been the main thing, but then around it, we've got all these other plots that are going around, that with Jane battling her cancer, becoming mighty Thor, all of those other things, but like underneath it all, we've got this bigger problem potentially in the Necrosword and the symbiote.
Yeah, agreed. Can't do anything but agree with that. There you go.
And if you have any thoughts, dear listener, please send us an email on don'tbehero@gmail.com.
The next thing I want to talk about is a very small thing, and it is what we've asked for a billion times before, which is, can we please, Marvel, K-Dog, please, can we have a TV series for Sif?
Oh, Lady Sif, she comes back.
Lady Sif is back temporarily for the smallest time ever. But Sif it's just a very unfortunate character that always appears for 2 minutes, and you're like,
underused character in MCU history.
And we need a Sif Asgard tale. We need a TV series that follows Sif. Maybe when Heimdall was back, when Heimdall was alive, so maybe it can be an old series, but with Heimdall, Sif, and the gang back. But yes, please, can we have that?
It's really nice. Again, coming back to the format of this podcast, we like to celebrate and talk about all of these side characters as well. And I think Lady Sif is always one that is a constant in this podcast that comes back, because she has been on loads of different projects, like Loki more recently as well in series 1. But she just there's no real character development. It's just, she turns up, there she is, and that's fine. But I think for somebody who is effectively and is an OG now, her role, her character from the first Thor was there. And it hasn't been recast. It hasn't been left under the rug. Those kind of characters deserve more of the screen time as well going forward. And I'll be interested to see whether there is plans for that going forward with Phase 6 and beyond of the MCU. There are still OG characters out there. Might not be main ones, but little side characters that are still floating in the MCU ether, not being utilised. But forgetting about that, mate, can we talk about Thor's performance? Let's start there.
Thor's performance. Ooh, yes, yeah. Would you have any thoughts about Thor's performance?
I do. I think what Chris Hemsworth established really well in Ragnarok is his comedic timing and his ability of being an on-it comedic performer. However, I feel like because of all of the things that are happening, and this is the other thing, the last previous movies with Thor have been things that have happened to him and are centered around his growth and centered around what kind of Thor does he want to be, what kind of god does he want to be. And what happens in this movie is that all of the things happen around him with people that he cares about. There are things that he cannot control. For instance, Jane's cancer. There are indirect things that then have a personal effect to him. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because like I don't know what we leading to. Do you know what I mean with Thor now? And even going into the fifth one, what are we finalizing with? Because I think we've got prime Thor. I think we've established the Thor that we've been working towards, and then that happened kind of in Infinity War. You know, with the Thanos story, with Thor and Thanos' kind of rivalry, that had so much to it, and we saw an ultimate Thor in that moment, the Thor that we fully realised. But beyond it now, well, what is it? Is it his retirement? Is it his death? You know, and the inclusion of Gore's daughter at the end made it kind of, oh yeah, and by the way, he's going to be a dad now.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is. I think it was incredibly good film for Chris. I think the acting was amazing. Like seeing the cancer story play out, I thought they were really lovely scenes. And then in the next scene when he's like trying to manage a screaming goat, I thought it was good. He did a really good job, I think. But I agree. I feel like this is kind of. If this was a Bond movie, then this would be the end of this iteration of Bond, and we would have a new actor. So for me, the only way that there can be another Thor is if they're going to kill off Thor. I think it will be, and what that will do is bring in a darker story. I think everyone's agreed that if there's another Thor movie, they have to slightly subdue the comedy. I think everyone's agreed that the comedy's got to be like, it's just making the character a little bit odd. So I think whatever happens, it will be a darker tale, and you know, let's bring in what happens is, so in the mid-credit scene we find out that Zeus is basically recruited Hercules to kind of, you know, go at Thor, and even Zeus says about wanting to kill Thor. He wants Thor dead. So I think that maybe this will be his that film will kill off Thor, because his family, like the family are no longer part of the films. Loki's almost bigger than a Thor movie now. I think that, you know, they're not going to bring Loki back for that. I think they'll bring Loki back for the Secret Wars and the bigger movies. They're not going to bring Loki in for a Thor movie. So I think logically it makes far more sense to have Thor's parting, you know.
Do you think we're going to get a Thor and Loki reunion?
I don't know if we are going to, until he dies or at his death, or like we had the funeral thing for Tony Stark. I wouldn't be surprised if we have it like that, and Loki's present, but I don't know if he's going to be part of the story that ultimately kills him.
Yeah, listen, tell us what you think about that as well. That's because I'm genuinely interested in other people's opinion on that, because I think that's a big one. Because I think we could quite easily not have that. I think that could quite easily be a choice by Disney, Mr. K-Dog, to not skip this reunion through scheduling, through whatever reasons. But also, Loki's character, you could argue, is completed. The character arc, the glorious purpose, is completed. And you could also argue that Thor's journey is also completed here.
Yeah.
So is there a reason for them come back together, or what circumstances do we need in order for that to happen?
And that's the thing. There would have to be massive. So he's not coming back because Hercules wants Thor dead. Do you know? Like, that's not the guy's looking after like all of the timelines. I don't think he's going to be bothered about. Think of and especially Loki now, who's thinking about the wider picture. He's not thinking of himself. He's not, so he's going to be thinking about the world, like the wider picture. So yeah, I think we'll have the death of Thor, which will end that chapter. Marvel's very keen on bringing young Avengers in, bring it, kind of rejuvenating what's gone on. So I think a good way to do that would be to end with the Thor side of it. It's not to say he'll never come back. Like, a different Thor will come back at some point and they'll start again. I'm sure they will, and they probably will in our lifetime. We'll probably be sat here in 15 years, I could imagine, and they're going, "Oh, we're going to bring him back." I'm like, you literally just got rid of him 10 years ago. So yeah. But I'm intrigued.
Let's talk about Natalie Portman. Let's talk about Jane. So Jane comes back into the fray, into the story. I remember vividly when they announced her at Comic-Con in the run-up to the movie, and it was such a huge reaction. They revealed what her role would be, and she was holding Mjolnir, and it got such a big reaction online, and huge of excitement as well to the movie as well. I think her journey feels like it is the main part of the story, and I think that was the right call. Definitely the right call. As much as we've got Gore's journey going underneath it, but I think Jane, it's a tragical circumstance, but also an extremely human thing. And when she's given the opportunity to go, right, if I need to battle this, the only way of doing it is becoming Thor. Great. And do you know what's amazing as well is in that moment, I don't think it kind of really gets explicitly said, but when she goes to New Asgard and goes to see the broken up hammer from Hela and stuff, and Mjolnir chooses her again, like similarly to the Necrosword chose Gore. And it's kind of, you've got revenge and you've got redemption, and so with all these kind of two characters, and it felt like that thread needed to be played a little bit more, because then you could justify a Jane Thor and Gore going at it with these ancient historical weapons, again going back into the ancient kind of ness of it, that have chosen a host to fight against, so good versus evil. You've got these parallels that could have played in really nicely. And again, I'm sorry, I know it's Thor. We've got Chris Hemsworth's Thor in there, but it didn't have to be at the Thor we thought. It could have easily have been more of, no, let's focus on Jane more. This is the Thor we're telling story. Yes, it's the fourth Thor, but we're talking about this Thor more. And it could have been, I think, an opportunity there to play more of this Thor more.
Sorry, I'm just going to appreciate that. That was, honestly, some literary genius. You just said, how did you word that? This was not the Thor's Thor. This wasn't. Oh, mate! When we have that in a podcast, it's going to be. I'm playing that over and over again. That's amazing.
What did I just say? I don't even know what I said.
This isn't Thor's Thor for Thor 4. This is Thor or something. That was genius. That is honestly. That's wow.
And even aware.
And what I love about that is the fact that you got it all out. If I'd tried to say that, I'd have been all over the place. Jesus, my tongue wouldn't know whether it was in or out, saying Thor 4, Thor.
Honestly, mate, I'm hungover and I have no idea what I'm saying right now.
That's but
I'm surprised myself, to be honest. I'm surprised I'm not fucking talking like this the whole time. So basically, I would have liked to have seen more Jane overall in her story, and I think that should have been the Thor we're following in the story, and then having a big fight against Gore. There were so many opportunities, I think, with the ancient artifacts, and it's what I think what they did well is that they displayed the human element of what cancer is, and it's a horrible thing to for anybody to experience, and but also an incredibly human thing, and I think they play it well. and they play it through with honesty. However, I think there could have been a little bit more of Natalie Portman. I think her story was gripping enough, and it didn't just need to be about our traditional Thor.
Yeah. Less Thor and gore, more mighty Thor for Thor 4.
That was it.
That's the one, mate. That's what we like. I mean, I've just stolen what you did about 5 minutes ago and made it less good, to be fair. But
no, that was amazing.
That's all right. I'd say that as my own. But yeah, I genuinely agree. I think it was brilliant. I think having Mighty Thor, Jane, like some bloody brilliant acting there as well.
Yeah,
I thought I thought Natalie did incredibly well with all of that, juggling all of those different plots and that character. Yeah, I thought it was great. I'm sad we're not going to have any more of that. But and also with Munya, one of my favourite comedy bits that was put in here was with Thor constantly trying to get Munya and Stormbreaker getting jealous. I thought, honestly, every time they did that, so this screaming goats they could have got rid of. I thought that was so boring,
annoying,
overused, and just irritating. It wasn't even funny. It was just irritating. Whereas Munya and Stormbreaker, Thor, you got me, mate. You got me now.
It was funny. That was good.
Genuinely funny.
The weird kind of like love triangle he's in with his hammers. Like it's so ridiculous. I would have loved to have seen like both Thor hammers just like meet, like Mjolnir and Stormbreaker just kind of meeting and just kind of having a face off. And that could have been. It might have been a deleted scene. I mean, I don't know, but I loved it.
I bet there's good fan fiction out there, Matt, where you could between Munya and Stormbreaker.
Let me have a little look, mate. Let me have a little
little nosy.
I'm gonna have a little look.
But I think so we get overall we've done the film. We get a mid-credit scene. We see that Zeus is alive, and the introduction of Hercules. Hercules, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's been on all kinds of British things, hasn't he? Marvel actor is Brett Goldstein, who has been in Ted Lasso and all that type of stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I know at the time it's a bit of an odd introduction to Hercules. I mean, we know, you look at Disney Hercules, you see that it's quite comedy driven. He's quite like, I don't know. I'm intrigued. Do we actually know if they're keeping Brett? I assume they are keeping Brett as Hercules for the next one. That would be a bit.
I'm assuming so. It's an interesting casting, isn't it? It's a bit. I wouldn't have thought that at all, but like I feel like it's going to work. Again, but also someone who's very good at comedic roles.
Exactly, which kind of insinuates to me that he is going to be a comedy character. They just wanted him to be introduced in a menacing, I'm going to kill Thor way. We haven't really seen him. We don't see him in dialogue or conversation with anyone else apart from his dad when his dad's potentially nearly dead. So in all fairness, he's hardly going to be full of fun and games. So I'm really intrigued how they go about that character. But yeah, so we end there with that, and then we end in the land of the gods, Valhalla. We go to Valhalla, which kind of brings in a bit of Assassin's Creed, mate. That's all I think of when I hear of Valhalla. What about you?
So Valhalla, the concept of like Valhalla and all that kind of stuff, I get it relates to, for me in my brain when I think about it, is the experience that I had when I played Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And the Viking.
Did you hear what I said, or are you going off of what I just said?
I'm going off on what you said.
Oh, okay.
No, I did hear what you said.
Oh, okay. You said
it does sound like I didn't know what you said.
I did.
I know.
Yeah, it reminds me of Assassin's Creed. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So I apologise profusely, mate.
So I agree. Yes, it does. For me, also, it brings in. I should have said also in between, just so it doesn't sound like I wasn't fucking listening to you. I mean, 9 times out of 10, I don't listen anyway.
Yeah, no, you were typing away, mate. It's because the keyboard.
I was listening though. I'm trying to do something for a later segment that you just teased me for. So I'm doing a bit. I'm doing a bit of work, mate. I'm doing a bit of bloody admin while we're trying to record. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
So carry on your thought. Yeah, Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed. The mythology around it and the way that they play it in Assassin's Creed is quite earthy and rooted. But with this, it was quite ethereal. And the way that we got to it, I'm excited. I'm excited to see more of it, and I kind of hope we do, particularly in whatever this 5th movie is going to be. We need to see more of what Valhalla is and what it means, and does it mean that we can get all these people back? Because let's be honest, we've had the ancestral plane in Black Panther. We've got it's with the Soul Stone as well. There's all of these possibilities of bringing dead characters back. That's slightly problematic for a lot of things, a lot of reasons. But if it's done well and it's done right, hey.
Although, on the other hand, actually, it could back up our earlier theory that Thor dies. Because actually, that could be why we keep seeing it. Is because ultimately, the last bit of Thor will be about him joining Heimdall and Jane in the land of the gods. So that could be where we end up. Who knows?
Who knows? It'd be nice. Again, I would any opportunity to get Natalie Portman back as Jane Foster in here would be great, but I don't know. How do you do that? That's up to Disney to decide. K-Dog, it's in your hands, my friend.
What rating would you give Thor: Love and Thunder?
Ooh, what? Okay. I'm not going to play any music. I'm not going to play silly buggers here. All right. I'm just gonna do it as it is, and as we do it traditionally within this format. I'm gonna give this a crisp rating of Cool Ranch Doritos. Now, that's like quite a popular choice in terms of the brand of Doritos. I'm not gonna give it a sharing bag. I'm gonna give it a multi-pack. Okay, because what you got is lots of different elements of all these stories that are being played through, and some has more content in one bag and one has a little less in another bag, and sometimes that can be a little bit annoying for the consumer. So I think it's a mixed bag. That's what I'm going to say. It's a mixed bag of the same thing, and it's fine. It's also a bit meh. At times, and there was missed opportunities, but in terms of story, but overall, good performances, great actors that are in the cast. We haven't even spoken about Valkyrie. I thought Valkyrie was fantastic in the movie as well, and like having her character in there as well develops story as well. So yeah, I'm gonna give it Cool Ranch multi-pack mixed bag. Let's say that's about 7.5 out of 10.
Fabulous. Whilst we're talking about Valkyrie and therefore New Asgard, also mention something else that we didn't talk about is Melissa McCarthy playing Helena, which was just incredible. But yeah, my crisp rating, I am going very similar, Matt. So I'm going for a multi-pack bag, but I'm going for the Walker's multi-pack where all of the different flavors. But I'm gonna say that this is a bag of Walker's multi-pack where you've got one extra cheese and onion, which not a fan of, which represents like the comedy overload, but you've also got one less of every other packet flavour. So all of the plots that you were interested in, there wasn't enough of, and then he overplayed the comedy. That's what I'm going for.
Oh my god, mate, that was lovely. Do you want some fan fiction?
I tell you, you're working hard on it, mate. Yes, please.
When I say it's fan fiction, it's not fan fiction. But what it is I have gone to the second best source, which is I have consulted to my AI companion, that is ChatGPT.
Oh, wow. Here we go.
And I've asked ChatGPT, and also because they don't, this wonderful piece of AI that we now have on this planet, for good or worse, I'm pretty sure this thing's going to take over the world at some point.
Yep.
But I've asked for ChatGPT to give us a short poem about Thor's Mjolnir meeting Stormbreaker.
Here we go.
Are you ready?
I'm tucked in.
In the forge of fate where legends entwine, Mjolnir meet Stormbreaker, a cosmic design. Hammer and axe, a celestial pair, Thor's might amplified in the electrified air. Mjolnir, ancient and wise, spoke to the star-born Stormbreaker, resplendent in cosmic adorn. Thunderous echoes met stellar gleam, a symphony of power, a godly dream. Two weapons converged in a cosmic ballet, past and present, a union to portray. Thor stood between a wilder divine, Mjolnir and Stormbreaker in harmony entwined. There we go.
That is absolutely beautiful.
That is classic ChatGPT there, saying everything but nothing at the same time.
What's also classic is you saying that it's AI when I know you've spent the last 6 days writing that and you've just found it. So.
Oh, it's no. You can purchase that poem on our new website, everybody. Don'tBeAHeroPodcast.com.
Matt's Poems, a collection of mythology.
Do you know what we should do? Talking about, now we've done, that's Thor Love and Thunder, dear listener. Thank you again for listening to the episode. What I will say is, I was going to say at the beginning, but I lost track of my hungover state. But I will say, look, again, if you're listening to this and you've got to the end of this podcast, honestly, thank you so much. We really do appreciate every single listen that we're getting. And if you haven't given us a review on Spotify or Apple, or wherever you're listening to this podcast, please do give us a review. It goes so far. It really does help us out. Also, we've got plans going forward in terms of loads of different types of content. Also, mate, I think we need to think about some merch soon. I think we need to re-engage the old merch idea.
Re-engage the merch.
Oh, I've got some ideas, friend.
Ooh. And I think we should stick a little competition at the end of one of the episodes to see whether people are listening.
I agree, my friend.
Get yourself some merch, mate. If you find out the code word in the next couple of episodes, you'll get something for free. We'll do it like that.
Yes, please. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you so much to listener. Honestly, appreciate the heck out of you, Forrest, my dear friend. I value your friendship. I value the companionship that we have. It means it's what makes me get up in the morning.
Likewise, mate. You are a dream to me, mate, which is luckily not just a dream.
You're my Mjolnir and I'm your Stormbreaker.
Yeah. That's us, mate. What a
That's
laugh.
us.
Oh, adios, man.
See you later, buddy.
Ta-ra for now. See you next week for Werewolf by Night.
No way, really?
Yeah, Werewolf by Night. Neither one of us have watched that, right?
No, that's the first. None of us have watched that. That's gonna be a good episode.
Oh, listen to that one. See you for that. Bye bye.